View the future. That's the slogan for a company that's been trying to develop and sell augmented reality devices for the last 20 years. It's a vision that the business world at large has not considered realistic, and which the public has viewed with both excitement and with scorn. Vuzix, a small publicly traded company based in West Henrietta, New York, near Rochester, has for decades been preparing for an embrace and proliferation of a kind of technology which is felt just around the corner for longer than some of its employees have been alive. It's become a story of high hopes, repeatedly dashed, of technical breakthroughs, repeatedly dismissed, and an ever-growing pressure to finally make good on the potential that only the most starry-eyed futurists openly embraced just a short time ago. Now, I expect the inside story of Vuzix and its many ups and downs is a fascinating one, and frankly I do hope that a corporate biographer will write about it one day. But I'm not that person. This is just my story. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not a recommendation. I'm just an individual investor, a small fish in a very big financial ocean. I've followed and owned shares in Vuzix for the past 8 years, and I've watched over and over how the bullish case presented by management just never quite materializes. But, I've got to tell you, I still think they're right. Vuzix, their products, and their vision all unquestionably belong in the realm of the futurists. In fact, I don't think it's really possible to appreciate their potential without a good dose of transhumanism. And while you can find lots of people who think this way in academia or in Silicon Valley, it's just not a common philosophy in corporate boardrooms or on Wall Street. Well, what's changed though? Why is this the moment to watch? How might this company's future defy its history of disappointing results? Well, I've personally been enthralled by augmented reality's potential for my entire life. Growing up in the late 90s and the early aughts, I played military flight simulators on the computer as well as shooter and strategy and management games. But the interface for all of these games always had a HUD, a heads-up display, in one form or another. There was always important information, pathfinding, hints, or alerts that were shown somewhere in the field of view. Somewhere that was convenient, somewhere that was relatively predictable. And most of these games would have been utterly unplayable, at least for an amateur, without these interfaces. So when I went on to become a pilot and then later flew for the United States Army, I got to experience augmented reality firsthand. And even just 10 years ago, very few people outside of military aviation really had firsthand experience with a good AR system, which gave them an undeniable advantage in performance and situational understanding. So for me, the helmet-mounted look-through display that I used allowed me to be a better, safer, more effective pilot, full stop. What Vuzix can help bring to the world very soon can unlock that same undeniable boost in safety and effectiveness for hundreds of millions of workers and individuals all across the world. So let me explain how. Over the last 5 years, computers, networks, sensors, and wireless communications have greatly improved in both speed and efficiency, while shrinking dramatically at the same time. Standardization is increasing across the board, and devices which would not have been able to communicate with each other in the past now do so in the background without us even realizing it. For instance, phones belonging to people that we'll never meet listen to the air tags in our luggage and then send those updates up to the cloud, which we see like magic on our phones while waiting in baggage claim. We see our bags moving around, and all that communication happens behind the scenes like magic. And the same kind of transformation is happening in the industrial Internet of Things. That kind of easy, seamless communication that just makes things work. Now, improvements in machine vision and edge AI are also crucial. And a great example of this is Qualcomm's XR chip platform, the XR2 and 3, which are being used in most augmented reality systems that are on the market or in discussion. These kind of electronics demonstrate that we already have the electronics required for genuinely useful and even magical AR available to companies right now. But there's something missing, and it's display optics. So we've been essentially stuck in pass-through AR. It's the kind that you would see if you opened an app on your phone, an AR app, and it can generate and render some really fairly incredible results, but it's forced to display them on an existing screen. And we can move this forward, so as Apple seems poised to do, if we pair this rendering power with a high-quality VR headset, the effect really might be genuinely amazing. You might be able to do some pretty impressive things with it. However, despite this potential, pass-through AR has always kind of been seen as a workaround and not quite the genuine article. So where are the small, light, bright, crisp, clear, see-through displays to bring AR into the mainstream, without needing to put your head in a bucket? Well, Vuzix does have them. Now, this is where things get tricky. Engineering and manufacturing the optical waveguides that Vuzix specializes in is not a subject that I'm an expert in. And there are really not many ways for us in the public to assess the quality of Vuzix's displays, or frankly those of its competing companies. Just about the only experiences in the mainstream public sphere are those of tech reporters using Magic Leap or Snap's AR devices from a while ago. Vuzix says that they are the industry leaders by a very wide margin, but it is frankly difficult to confirm or deny, especially with tech titans like Apple and Meta developing projects in absolute secrecy within their corporate skunkworks. But Vuzix has been aggressively building their manufacturing capacity, a move that speaks to high confidence in their design. And their new facility is slated to begin production in just a few weeks. And this should represent a step change in the availability of high-quality AR optics. This is the kind of thing that can support strong growth in revenue and rapidly increasing brand recognition. Additionally, Vuzix has announced that the coming quarter, to be shared on May 10th, will represent the highest revenue quarter in the past 10 years, with a good outlook to continue setting high revenue marks throughout the coming year. Now, everyone who's followed Vuzix is very aware that optimistic words about the next few quarters have been spoken so frequently that there remain few people who will take them to heart. The company really must show us in revenue, in joint ventures, in purchase agreements, and increasing volumes. But the expansion in manufacturing capacity has the potential to unlock all of those things, and quickly. But before I move on, I'd like to share a little speculation that I've had in my head for a while. I think that high-performance glass will be a crucial part of the future. It already is, in fact. It's in everything from fiber optic communication cables to the Gorilla Glass on our phones and even in some car windshields. Now, one type of specialty glass is called high-index glass. And what's special about it is its ability to carry and reflect light in extremely uniform and predictable ways. It allows extremely tight optical engineering in a way that's a bit similar to how lithography, used in silicon chip manufacturing, is engineered in extremely tight and predictable ways. The high-index glass waveguides made by Vuzix are really not so different from computer chips when you look at the precision and purity required to produce them. So, continuing this speculation, I think that there's a possibility that Vuzix is attempting to make a pathway for itself to become essentially both the Taiwan Semiconductor and the ASML of the waveguide world. Now, I know that's a pretty big lift, and I still have zero reason to think that they'll actually find that kind of dominance. But it could be their moonshot, and frankly, it would be mine if I was them. Either way, there's another company that will be heavily involved in the waveguide industry, and it's headquartered less than an hour and a half away from Vuzix in upstate New York. And of course, it's Corning Glass. Corning, ticker GLW, is home to the most advanced glass research, design, and mass manufacturing in the United States, and in some fields, the world. They're experts in wafer glass. It's the kind of ultra-pure crystal that is central to so many types of waveguides. The reason that it's called wafer glass is because it comes in circular wafers, very similar to the silicon wafers used in chip manufacturing. And in fact, a lot of the same machinery and techniques can be used to handle and machine them. So there's actually a lot of commonality there. In Corning's most recent earnings call, the company repeatedly mentioned augmented reality as part of their future markets and as an area of growth for the company. Something that I thought was interesting. But back to Vuzix. So when I look at Vuzix as a company, it's obviously a story about R&D and of future disruption. After all, they're losing money now, and they've been losing money essentially forever. They do make useful products, which they are selling, in which they are improving constantly through software upgrades. But there's not yet a lot of evidence that they have a runaway hit on their hands. Still, management is confident. CapEx is growing, and most estimates do see a still massive total addressable market for AR technology in the near future. Vuzix has enough cash on hand to keep the lights on for a few quarters, but the length of their runway is a genuine concern. Even so, their unique intellectual property, patents, and core competencies would seem to make Vuzix a tempting target for portfolio managers with an eye on the future and a stomach for risk. So, what's going on with its stock? So, as I said at the top, I've been a shareholder for 8 years. So I've watched this company stock closely for a while, but I'm only really going to touch on the last few years of action. The first thing that I think needs to be said about this company's stock is the very, very unusual short interest. Going back nearly 2 years at least, Vuzix has always had a short interest of at least 20%, and usually 25 to 30%. The stock has maintained this short interest regardless of its trading price. There was a 21% short interest in August of 2021 when it traded at more than $13, and it had a 25% short interest just recently in March of 2023 when trading for less than $4. And it's had that same high level of short interest for every month and every price in between. Now, this kind of relatively, at least, massive short position just sitting on the company day in and day out is, well, it's confusing, and it's an invitation for conspiracy theories and persecution complexes. And I mean, I get it. It really does seem like there's an intentional effort to keep Vuzix's valuation depressed, or that somebody is so convinced that the company will fail that it's almost turned into like an investing vendetta, though that doesn't seem likely. Maybe it's even a cultural thing, where somebody who doesn't share the vision of the future held by Vuzix's management and by prominent investors like Cathie Wood simply doesn't agree with the company and is trying to force them down. I don't know. ARK does own 4.3% of Vuzix's shares as of May 5th, 2023. I have no idea what's going on with the short interest. There are plenty of possible explanations for why deep-pocketed entities might want to keep Vuzix's valuation low. Everything from facilitating a buyout attempt to hindering competitors' abilities to raise effective capital. I don't know what it is, but there are 3 primary things that I take away from the short interest history. 1. Be prepared for failure. Vuzix is not currently profitable, and they may never find a working business model. And of course, there may be some form of corruption or malpractice that might possibly be uncovered. We do need to be prepared for these possibilities. Even so, I am still invested, and I think that the company seems close to having its moment in the sun. 2. The shorts are highly committed. It will take more than just a little sentiment rally to squeeze them into covering. The shorts will be on this company until and unless it's plain to see for the whole investing world that Vuzix has a money-making product. And 3, when the shorts do cover, it will leave a mark. Now, I doubt that we'll see the kind of stratospheric rally like we had in 2021, but when short covering begins, the stock will have a very healthy run. And if covering was triggered by an obvious change in corporate outlook, then as the shorts abandon the position which they've consistently held for so long, it would mean that the stock would be unlikely to return to those low levels that it held while it was being sat on by that short position. So whatever that news is that comes out that would trigger a short squeeze and get them out, it'll be the sort of thing where if you weren't in before then, it's just not going down to that level again. But of course, that does require that the company succeeds and brings out some good news. So, what is Vuzix? Risk, and reward, potential and uncertainty. That's how I view the future of Vuzix. Now, their next earnings call is scheduled for May 10th after the close. I'll be listening for meaningful updates on manufacturing expansion, for orders and agreements on OEM and white label waveguides, and for color and timing of defense-related projects. Also for any possible unexpected increases in CapEx, because things are just usually more expensive than you plan. I don't think that this will be the earnings report that removes all doubt, but I do think it will be a good report. There's still so much about this company and the technology they work on that I haven't even mentioned. But even after 8 years, I am still excited by the potential that Vuzix looks close to realizing. Question is, will they? Thanks for listening. I haven't posted in a while, and I don't really have a release schedule, but if you thought that this was helpful or interesting, then subscribe and hit the like button. See you next time. Thanks.